the language of our final report. And as a reminder to everybody, we are not drafting any particular proposal. We are just coming up with ideas that the council ought to look at and explore. So that's how we'll be approaching it. The council, especially in the open and ethical election and election code issues, they've already got the bills before them, and we'll talk a little bit about the status of those when we get there. But it is now another 30 seconds and we'll start. I think we've got most of our people here. There will be some stragglers. As the roll call sign-in sheet goes around, if you have proxies, will you please indicate that on the roll call? I think everybody's been doing that. I signed Mr. Antoon and his proxy in. Mr. Antoon is on the phone. Hello, Eric. Hello. All right, why don't we go ahead and get started? As I indicated, the roll call is reflected on the sign-in sheet, and Lindsay will reflect that. Do I hear a motion to approve our agenda? It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion on the agenda? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? All right, the agenda is approved. As you recall, there was a request last week for a briefing or an analysis of what is in the fund right now for public financing. And we have Jerry Romero and Patsy Pete. Gosh, see, the old brand. Following away. From the, it's still the budget office, right? Okay, that hasn't changed. Jerry, Patsy?
Yes, thank you. So what you have before you is this sheet here with blues and greens on it. And Patsy pulled the information, and I'm just going to try to explain to you. If you have questions, we get into the weeds, I'm going to turn to Patsy. But we don't really track how the money was given out. That's the city clerk's responsibility. You probably already know that, or maybe have seen the presentation. These are just balances on the general ledger. And the way this works is, as you move from left to right, it's from fiscal year 12 forward. In fiscal year 12, we pulled it into this fund called the Trusted Agency Fund. And so there was a large balance carried forward. And you see the revenue in red with brackets around it. So we brought forward $1.4 million that first year. And as you move into FY13, you can see we added another $531,000, most of which was general fund contribution. The rest was money collected by the candidates. And then you see what was spent that year, $701,928. And that was a mayoral election year, and I think we had five that year, 5 council districts. And then the formulas work the same in the 14 column and 15. And if you move all the way to the right to the green column, you see the net result of what's left in the fund in red. It's $2,196,000 as of June 30th. We will send over another 1/10 of 1% in the current fiscal year. That amount is budgeted at $505,000. So by the time we close out this fiscal year, and there's no elections between now and June, this will grow from $2,196,000 to almost $2,007,000, I guess. And then in 17, approximately the same amount sent over from the general fund, plus whatever contributions the candidates, the mayor and council collect. We're looking at probably 3.2 by the time the next election occurs.
And I think one of the things that this reflects is the fact that matching funds have not been done for several years now. And so I think some of the committee members wanted to have an idea of what was in the fund if we do make some recommendations on changing the matching fund for the mayor's race so that it might be 3 times the initial distribution rather than 2 times the initial distribution for matching funds. So that is, are there any questions?
And Mr. Chair, if you do put something like that together, we'd be happy to run the numbers or the council staff to show you how that might draw down.
Okay, that might be useful. I think probably what we'll do, what we will be doing, we will be making, if we do, what we will be delivering to the council is, as you look at the open and ethical elections provisions that are currently before FGO, we think you ought to explore 3 times the amount for the mayor's race, given the cost of running the mayor's race now, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And during that time, before the next FGO meeting and now, which is January 11th, I think the bills are up, I'm sure council staff would work with you to get those numbers run for the council.
Yeah, because obviously if you up the distribution amount, you've got a balance that you can draw down, but eventually you probably need to revisit the contribution coming in from the general fund to make sure on an ongoing basis you have enough to match that.
And I think, before I get to Steve, one of the things that is also implicated is that we've already recommended a new matching fund formula at 2 times in our recommendations from the spring. And I think this accumulation that's been taking place in here is a result of not having matching funds. I think, Patsy, when was the last time we did matching funds? No, it would have been 7, right?
That was the original appropriation, was in 2007.
Okay.
I believe it was in 2008 that council added an additional 400,000 in addition to the 1% 1%.
Okay.
And then because general fund, the fund was so rich, and general fund was not, we took back the 400,000.
Then it might have been probably 2009.
Or 11.
Well, it might have been 11 we did that because.
Yes, it was 2011.
Okay, 2011. Thank you, Doug. 2011 was the last time that we did matching funds, so that we've got this accumulation that's in there. Anyway, great stuff. Any questions? Oh, Steve, you had a question.
Now he's chewing.
Right.
I'll ask a question while Steve's chewing. Do we remember how many candidates, I'm not expecting you guys to know this, but does anybody else remember how many candidates were using public financing in 13 and 15? Because, I mean, just looking at the mayor's race, when
13, there was 1 mayor candidate, I think, and 2, maybe 3 council candidates.
I think there were 3 council candidates.
Right.
There was District 1, District 5, and District, I think Gibson, Miss Gibson,
yeah,
But that wasn't 2015.
but that was
did I?
15.
That was 15.
Oh, that's
13 was the mayor's race. 13 was, I think there was 1 mayor.
13 is 1, 3, 5, 7, 9.
But that are up for election or that use the money?
Yeah, in
That are up for election.
Right.
Yeah, but who used the money?
And Laura's question is how many you utilized?
I know it was 1 mayor candidate in 13.
I know, are we talking mayor or council?
Both. So there was 1 mayor candidate.
And there was District 1, District 5, District 9.
And 3, okay,
Probably, yeah, 3, yeah.
at least 3.
If Gibson did it, it would be District 7 as well.
So, but we,
Did.
I believe she did too.
yeah, I'm just
Yeah.
trying to figure out
She did whenever it was she ran.
how many people took us to $700,000 and.
It'd be 1 mayor and 4 councilors.
4, yeah.
And I guess my question would be, how much of this is going to mayor's race and how much of it is going to individual council race?
Well, let's take the 700,000 in 13, and roughly speaking, 50-50. That's roughly speaking, but that's about 50-50.
I think, Mr. Chair, if you look at 15, the 123,000 spent would have represented the four, is that right? 2, 4, 8, 6, and 8 districts.
If they
And I don't know how many used it, but. you can
Well, I think
extrapolate.
there were 2 that used it.
Wasn't there a problem with the West Side District, got that sudden explosion of population and then they get counted in the census and so they were way underrepresented and got less money than other districts?
I don't think that affected the,
Did you say there were 2 in the mayor's race, Bob? I think
One.
there was only-
1 in the mayor's race.
There was only one, and one tried and didn't, and one didn't want it.
Right.
But in 14, I think there were 2, or in 15, there were 2 candidates who used, 3. Strike that, 3. Councilor Benton, candidate
Davis,
Davis, and candidate ran in your councilor's district.
in,
Chavez.
Brad, did Brad Winter's opponent use it?
Yes.
so, could be in the
Yeah, 3. And Steve, we've had a couple of discussions on that. There is a disparity. I think the highest council district is 7, which would get about 45,000. And then your councilor's district, I think, gets about 35,000 based upon the current allocation of money. And that's one of the issues that we need to, that we'll be talking about tonight if we want to make a recommendation on that to the council. All right, any other questions for Jerry and Patsy? Well, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
This is
having
terrific.
us. I just one in September. All right.
All right.
Mini triathlons. I see you out walking once in a while.
Yeah.
Say hello. I do. I scared you and Paula one day on the trail. I was on the bike and you were on the crusher pine, controversial crusher pine trail. I think I see you. Good seeing you guys. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Did we get Heather on the phone?
Not just yet, she wanted to wait before we got to the election.
Okay, great.
Do you want me to put her on?
No, we're not there yet. We've got some public testimony. We'll start with Diane.
I just want to say thanks for your graciousness and for allowing us to have a voice and having the mayor possibly be part of the city council. I hope that you'll have a good discussion about it, and I hope that you'll pass it on to the city council and let them make a decision about it, because I think it's going to be beneficial, not just for this mayor, but for any mayor. And I've already said enough before, and you've been great for it, so I don't need to say anymore. I just hope that you'll do something to pass it. Thanks.
Thank you very much for your attendance and your getting the word out on what the committee's doing.
Yes. No problem.
Tab?
Thank you. My name is Ted Niewski. Thank you. This comment I have to make. Now come up with matching plans. I can see lots of in the future also unconstitutional approach to matching. Well, let's take for example Donald Trump. He not only not accepting public, but also private donors. What he done? He donated, but he used his own money for campaign, which is right here. What's happening if he would suppose government match his funds? Anyway, that is an example, matching. he doesn't not doing that, and I have given him up also. Now, I can see also, when it comes to matching funds, that's also obligation. When you accept money from the city, which is taxpayer, tax money, then, of course, that's common sense tells you, you have some kind of obligation, assuming you are obligation to government. And that is wrong. But it's worth it to think this way. It's so many other points that I don't want to take too much time. Now, city are not exempt from United States and United States Constitution, neither state of New Mexico Constitution. Example, all these laws what they passing, it is are all unconstitutional. Take it, seize your car without due process. Even that's what I mean. They're claiming they are exempt. I'm sorry, not. Common rights law. Yes, city are on the runs. I'm sorry. City already having official having for it. Yes, I am in one lawsuit involved, and that's no joke. And they're from mayor down, and even go beyond that, judicial system already, according to my knowledge, 3 lawsuits pending. Also, Governor Susana Martinez is mentioned. It is also on the ground of civil and criminal, that civil contained by violation, civil statutes and state and criminal statutes. So it is no joke anymore. I'm sorry. You can pump up, especially city attorney can pump up. Well, yes, I am in one lawsuit, and I'm also beneath the other. No, what does mean common law? Don't have to be. That is under United States Constitution. Every one person. You don't have to be licensed. It's not supposed to be licensed by the state bar. That is constitutional. That's exactly what my associates, my friends, are behind it. I'm just on the background. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, that brings us to the first item on our task and issues that we've identified we want to talk about, and that is Laura's issue, which is what to do about the census years. Just to kind of maybe give a summary of the some of the discussions we've had, is moving the election permanently in the city charter, moving the election on a one-time basis during census years. I think she wanted the next item. And then perhaps seeking a legislative fix to bring all municipal elections together. So what I'd like to see is if there's any specific proposals that we want to do, or if there's a specific proposal that we want to take, or suggest as a council that this is an issue that won't come up again until 2020. And my thinking is that let me just throw this out here and see what folks think, is to identify this as an issue that's been a problem in the past, to point out to the council that the Clerks Association is looking to consolidate municipal elections in March of odd number years. And that we think this is something that needs to be addressed, and that, you know, there are so many possibilities that depend on things like the legislature, et cetera, that we want this to bring it to their attention that it's an issue that needs to be dealt with, but we don't have a specific proposal at this time. Something along those lines. What, Laura?
I like that idea, and then maybe just list the different ideas that we had, and if we want to vote to put them in some kind of order, maybe we could, but I don't think we need to. I think they'll want to decide that on their own.
Is there any other discussion?
The only thing I think someone raised last time was, instead of March of even-numbered years, even though I think all the other cities do it that year, there was some discussion of March of odd-numbered years.
Right.
Do you want to add that to our list, or?
I think we would, let's see.
Can we mention that the Clerks Association is planning on doing that?
I
And
was-
say that that's
yeah.
an option too?
Yeah, I think we can add, and I think it's also an option just to do it in the charter. You know, I think the council could just do that, so I like Laura's idea of just adding that as a fifth bullet.
And I think each one presents different logistic problems, and I know that I kind of like the idea at first of just having it in November and pushing it off a month, but then that really squishes the, if we want to stick with the December 1 swearing-in date, that really.
It doesn't provide for a runoff.
It compresses that time, right, so I'm sure the councilors will all be aware of all those issues and want to talk through everything.
And, you know, this is, while I think, you know, it's a good government thing, that we as all good government advocates can, you know, can come up with an idea on, but quite frankly, having been an attorney for politicians and a politician, I think this is really kind of a real political decision. So what the plan is going to be is that we'll get, if there is a consensus on this idea, Lindsay and I will work over the next couple of weeks, come up with some language that we will have available Monday before the 17th. That will be our final report to the council, and we'll vote on that on the 17th. But if there's a consensus around that, we'll give, you know, a brief background on the issue, that, you know, point out what the clerks are doing, and then say these are options that we've looked at that we think the council could explore. That,
Just one more thing for the ultimate product is the clerk had mentioned that if the move was made, it was gonna cost more resources. If there could be just, I don't even think we have to identify how much more, but just mention that maybe the clerk needs to be consulted as to what it would
Right.
entail.
yeah, why don't we put a sentence in that in any odd number year solution in the spring of the odd number year will require additional resources.
I think it's the even number.
Yeah.
Is it the even number?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry, it was even number years.
Yeah.
And that the city clerk and the county clerk have provided useful information that we think the council would be useful to the council as well. Does that sound good? Do we have a consensus on that? Do we need all in favor of that general concept to be solidified on the 17th? Say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, we're through one. Okay.
Well, I think the city clerk didn't have an opportunity to opine on that. We were gonna follow up and ask for her position, I believe.
And, but that's what I'm saying is that we include that in there, that we didn't get specific information from her on that thing, but the flags raised by the county clerk would require
Yeah.
consulting with the city clerk as well.
Yeah.
All right, we now move to our next one, which is the issue that has been raised on the role of the mayor and issue of the communication between the mayor. I think, Lindsay, make a note that our final report should reflect the vote we took last week, that we specifically do not recommend a change in the form of government.
Okay.
And Lindsay is passing out. Lindsay, is there any way you can fax these to Doug, or
Absolutely.
does
but
he have them?
I can send these to you. So this is just a collection of various municipalities that have strong mayors. And, you know, what I kind of found was the language is very similar to that of Albuquerque, where the majority, or the interaction with the mayor and council is in the form of the mayor will come and do a state of the city at council, or address the budget at council. The only exception is the city of Denver, which has the language, the mayor shall from time to time give the council information on the condition of the city and county and recommend such measures as he or she may deem expedient. So I don't know if that's language that this body would like to consider.
Right, I think what this shows is that most strong mayor form of governments are very similar to what we've got, where it requires the mayor's or designee's attendance. With that one difference, Atlanta. The Atlanta charter says the mayor shall, oh no, that's not the one I'm looking for, Denver.
Denver, the first one.
Denver. The mayor shall from time to time give the council information on the condition of the city and county, their combined government, and recommend such measures as he or she may deem expedient. Laura?
Does the mayor come down and do the states, any kind of state of the city in front of the council anymore?
Not anymore.
I think he used to.
Yeah, I think it was,
What's the budget?
And that's why my second question, I don't think he does that either. I think he has his budget guys present it. right?
Steve, you remember back in the day, the mayor would always come down on April 1st and do the state of the city at the council presenting the budget.
First time.
Yeah, April 1st.
Interesting.
Recently, I think before the current administration, the mayor, maybe not even the most previous one to that, but the mayor came down and then did the public one after, giving the
Right.
highlights to the mayor,
Right.
to the council.
We go over to the convention center or something. and
Yeah,
do
that
it
was later.
Or,
That would be the public of what he did privately, not privately, but focused with the council.
Yeah, and I remember some of the mayors that I served for would go have a state of the city at community centers and various places around town.
yeah.
Laura?
I was thinking a lot about this the last couple of weeks, and one of the things that struck me was the original charter, the 74 charter said mayor or designee, and I thought, well, it makes sense to allow a designee because the mayor's pretty busy and isn't always able to go to every meeting, so it makes sense to have it. But I think the original intent, and I'm guessing here, was to have the mayor attend from time to time. So I guess, again, I would like to do this in a way that we did the last item and really just let the council know, and the administration as well, that this keeps coming up for various reasons. They're not always the same reason that this issue arises, but it seems to me we should say this keeps coming up. It seems to make sense that the mayor and the administration and the council try to get together and figure out a forum that would work for both of them, whether it's the mayor comes twice a year or goes back to the state of the city and the budget presentations, or and then they can all decide how that works best for each body.
And maybe attach, say, we looked at these various provisions but we think you all, we urge that there be some further discussions and some solution.
We say that at the very least that we could have requested the mayor give the state of the city, the city council, and the budget, at the very least.
Maybe we could put that as historically, early in the system, the mayor would often, do that. Dave?
Well, yeah, he would often do that, but he'd have the selection to do that. One of the problems I've got, if only because the people who promulgated this idea are so nice and have been so engaged in this process that I really like it. I really wish I'd liked this idea. I really do. But from my view of the separation of powers, one of the problems with this, and I think it maybe is mixed in with recent events or something else. But one of the problems is causing the mayor to go to the council, which is the suggestion. I don't think that's the way the separation of powers works. You could have a different format where the county, where the county hires a manager and the county commission actually runs everything, because there's a manager that's not elected, he's hired, he's subservient, he comes and council meetings, he's required to be there. But Albuquerque, and I remember this, I'm old enough to remember, it was the last manager was named Herb Kraus, and I remember the big deal when the charter came in.
Oh, Herb Smith.
Herb Smith, not Herb Kraus, right. And I remember all that. I remember watching it. I was little and I didn't quite follow what was going on. But there was a real fundamental decision made at that time to have a strong mayor. And if you go piecemeal pushing, this is not a linear process. If you push somewhere, you're not really sure where something's going to bulge out. There are unexpected consequences. There are issues of even political games that can be played, other things that can happen in requiring, I guess the bottom line is not a neutral forum. The mayor is being required under the proposal to go to the council. It wouldn't probably be very popular if I suggested the opposite, which I'm not, that the council go to the mayor in non-neutral ground. I liked the historical background because I had the mayor going somewhere else and giving a speech, or it was somewhere at his discretion, somewhere neutral. And that's sort of a flavor. If there's a way of preserving that rather than
Let me go. Share your concerns on the form of government. I think we've got a strong form of government. I know, I think there are issues that need to be addressed there. But I think maybe we could say something along the lines of this. I'm thinking out loud here, that we've had public input and we have seen issues, and note historically the practice of the mayor presenting the budget at the April 1st meeting or around the April 1st meeting, and suggest that ideas that the mayor, I like Laura's language, maybe the mayor and council look at ideas that,
What is a
Think
neutral,
about a different
neutral
forum.
forum, yeah, which
Yeah.
I like. And I really would like to mention the public participation we've had on this issue, because it's been absolutely fantastic and a lot of fun to have the kind of participation, and I'd like to acknowledge that in whatever we end up sending.
yes.
Mr. Chairman,
Rita, and then you, Doug.
And then
thank you.
also
Okay.
Steve.
Okay.
So, I guess, first of all, I'd like some point of clarification is what is the comparable Albuquerque language? I know you mentioned it in your presentation, but is there something that you could read out that tells us what the current language is?
It's mayor or designee shall attend the council.
And it doesn't say for the budget or state of the city, it just says mayor designee.
Every meeting.
Okay. Second thing is, it's about the idea of a forum. I mean, I think that this effort is to try to have the people who elected the public officials feel more involved, engaged, and listened to. And it's hard to legislate that the mayor and the city council also communicate better and play nice. And you don't want to go against the separation of powers. However, I don't think that this necessarily is implying the separation of powers, because what it seems to me is that it's asking the mayor and the council to together listen to the people who come and try to engage in the public process. So I don't, I guess what I'm trying to say is, we're trying to find a forum, and I don't know whether requiring the mayor to come to the council necessarily creates the forum, because it could be a dog and pony show just as much as not showing up. I mean, it could be ineffective, is I guess what I'm saying. And so, I think I'd like to bring to the council, like Laura said, bring to the council and the mayor that there's an expression by the public that there need be a forum, that people see the council and the mayor working together to listen.
Okay. Doug and then Steve.
This is very political, this whole issue, and I've gone a couple of ways on it as I've listened over the many weeks. The thought of the separation of powers, at first it grabbed me when David explained it, that, yeah, you wouldn't want to have conflict there. However, the current language requiring the mayor or his designee or her designee should raise that same issue, because it literally is the mayor or the designee, and the designee is no less than the mayor. So I don't think it's a separation of powers concern that wasn't addressed at some other time when they put that language in. I am concerned that Laura's suggestion, though it makes sense, is really kind of kicking it down the road a bit. And maybe it's because of the nature of the subject. If you have a council and the mayor discussing what they're going to do, that may change from administration to administration. And I mean the makeup of the council as well as the changes in the administration's person. So it will remain very unshaped as far as a way to do it. That might be the best in a free system like ours, although I do favor that accountability. And I, too, have supported the public's position on this, some of the folks who have been appearing. But I don't know if there is a legal, when I say legal meaning charter, solution.
Right. Steve.
Because we may be producing some stagecraft for people in these offices to do what they want. I think the main issue is access to this particular mayor. And that's his right to handle his availability the way he thinks meets the needs of the community. And it's the public's right to determine whether or not that's good and whether or not they want more. I think it's part of the political and electoral, and I stress electoral process, that if this is the person that the public elected and they re-elect, I don't think setting up, getting into the granularity of governing as far as setting up public meeting times.
Yeah, I don't think anybody's going in that direction, so.
No, I think we are talking about availability.
Yeah. Okay, Steve.
I was just, excuse my ignorance, I should know this, but I don't. But the governor does a State of the State address in front of the legislature. The president does a State of the Union. Is that a constitutionally mandated thing, or is it optional?
I think it's constitutionally mandated.
Yes.
I can tell you the federal answer. I don't know that I know
What
the
is
state
the
answer.
federal
The federal answer is that the president is required to report to the Congress about the state of the union, but not necessarily required to attend.
Does it-
And that for some period of time between Washington and Wilson, the report was made in writing, but that Wilson changed the practice and began to appear in person before the Congress, and that they have followed that practice since that time. But the constitutional requirement does not require that the president attend in person, only that he make that report. I'm not sure what the rule is in New Mexico, but as long as I've lived here, I believe that the governor has gone in a formal way and made an opening statement that acts as the state of the state.
That, I can see some small burden like that placed on the municipal executive that wouldn't really get into the separation of power problem. I think is totally legitimate. Maybe something like that would be doable. Annual requirement.
Well, I think in keeping with what we did with the previous one is maybe we say this is an issue, we've had public testimony, that there's a great deal of interest in communication, that there have been formal contacts in the past where the mayor would present the budget. We think this is an issue that certainly has generated public comment and news reports, and we think the council and the mayor should explore a way to make the system better, and maybe throw in the practice of going out to community centers and doing it in a neutral forum. Put that language in there. Why don't I do this? Why don't Lindsay and I take a whack at something, get it to Laura and Dave initially, and then get some feedback there, and then get it into our draft report that we will have for the Monday of the next meeting. Does that sound like a plan?
Right, and you were gonna reference this and then also say, at the very least, they may wanna consider X and Y.
Yeah,
I agree. I think we should be in that position to recommend that they consider and let them fight the details out. But I really think that this is an important thing, and so I would agree with both you and Rita on this.
Bob,
And Steve.
Yes.
If I could, just to give you guys some input on what I'm hearing here and what I'm thinking. I think in regard to the question of whether the mayor should appear or should be compelled to go to council or not, I'm hearing two concerns which are legitimate. The first one is to somehow try to force meaningful dialogue between the mayor and the council in regard to policy. And that with the absence of the mayor coming to the meetings, there is some thought that dialogue does not occur. Whether it will occur or not if you force him to go, or whether he goes on his own volition, that may be something that still needs further thought. But that's what I think is driving the discussion in one part. I think in the second part, what's driving the discussion would appear to be whether, because the council has certain kind of access to the public in its public meetings, whether the mayor ought to be exposed or required to participate in some way in that interaction between the government and the public. And that there may be some direction here in wanting to say that the mayor might be more accountable to the public if in fact he is required to go to these meetings. One more thought. On the separation of powers issue, keep in mind that the mayor has a veto. And that the mayor's veto is unique, as I understand it, in New Mexico. And I think is there to preserve a fair amount of separation of powers. What the charter drafters were thinking when they had both the veto and the requirement that the mayor or a delegate appear at meetings, I'm not sure. But I think as long as there is the veto, we have a strong mayor and a fair amount of separation of powers that's different than most other municipal governments in New Mexico.
Right. I understand, and if anybody has a specific proposal they want to make, let's do that. If we don't have a specific proposal, let's see if we can work out a consensus, because I suppose we would have 9 different, or however many people we've got here, ideas. So if there is an idea that anybody has to put to the vote, let's.
I just would like for those the budget, the state of the city, at a very minimum, be included. And this is not about separation of powers, this is about common sense and people working together. you know, the 21 years that I was in office, the most successful councils and commissions that I was on were those that got along with the mayor. The most
Right.
successful mayors were those who got along with the council. And so,
Let-
I don't know how we can
let-
legislate that, but.
Yeah. Let
you know,
me
they need to
suggest,
hear that. They
let-
need to hear that from us, because we are the reps in this community, and that's a point that we want them to hear.
I agree. Let me give my sense of things. This is an issue that's currently a political debate in the community. And there's a lot of different views on it. One of the councilors got on TV and talked about it. And to keep the ball rolling, to keep the discussion rolling, I think it would be, we could take two approaches. We could send up something on a 8-6 vote, or we could try and incorporate all the issues and problems that have been identified and send that up as a consensus vote. I think those are the two approaches. So I think we try and get all these problems that we've identified, and Steve, I think the one of, look at how it's been done in the past. At least have that annual, report, either the State of the Union at the council, or as many mayors did out in the community. I think that would keep the ball rolling more than perhaps what I would see might be a split vote if we had specific proposals.
And I think, excuse me, that it's also, we can have an important role by saying, we've heard this and we think it's a legitimate issue and we think you need to consider it, so.
And there could be more than one item on that. We've heard
Yeah.
this and we think it's a legitimate issue. In other words, that these appear appropriate for specific action by a charter task force.
Right. I think we lose our consensus, if we start characterizing. The more we characterize things, I think we start losing our consensus. So that's why I'm suggesting that Laura and Dave work with Lindsay and I, and then if we get next week and it's not acceptable, people think we ought to say more, we can do that. I just think the more we're able to be unified, to keep this issue going, because I can suspect that if we took a hard vote and say we think that on any one of these, if we put up, the mayor shall from time to time give council information, even on the condition the city and county recommend such measures as he or she may deem expedient, that would not get a unanimous vote. But I think this issue is something that the council and the mayor, quite frankly, need to address. And I think if we say with a unified voice, this is something that needs to be addressed. There are many ideas out there that deal with this. Look, here are a few that have taken place in the past. You guys go
I like what you're trying to do, Bob.
explore.
I like what you're trying to do.
Yeah, I would point out that addressing it might mean that people consider it carefully, and probably more carefully than we've had the opportunity to do here, even though I think we've done about as well as we can do. But the answer might be, after it's been addressed, that it's just fine the way it is.
Yeah. Well, again, it gets to what, I think by taking the approach we're taking, we're saying this is an issue. We as a group of citizens who believe in good government think the existing government should take this and look and move forward and address it. The decision is ultimately going to be a political one. You politicians need to figure it out. I mean, we won't put that in the report, but that's kind of the concept. I mean, it is more of a political decision. But I think because of, and again, I want our minutes to reflect the good, or our report to reflect the amount of public comment we've had, and really that we appreciate the participation by people in our process. All right, everybody, all in favor of that approach, that will get something to Laura and Dave, and then vote on the final language on the 17th? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right.
One comment, the earlier you can get this stuff distributed to the members of
The
the
better.
task force, you're gonna save a lot of time in the next meeting.
Yeah. Well, and I'm gonna try and be as inclusive as I can of all the ideas, but short and sweet. I think short and sweet is the better way to do this than long and explanatory.
Mr. Chair,
Yes,
would it be possible to try to get everyone's comments incorporated by the end of next week? Because then that gives us 3 business days to get our comments to you. Because I think it would be helpful, rather than trying to get something Tuesday or Wednesday and the meeting is Thursday.
all right, why don't, Lindsay and I
draft?
will have, at least on, yeah, let's get it out to,
Draft.
yeah, the draft out on Friday.
Thank you.
It'll be December 11th, correct?
December 11th.
All right, let's go ahead and give Heather Ferguson a call.
All right, and while we're getting Heather on the line,
Hang tight, Doug.
we're moving into, we're gonna start, not with the election code, we're gonna start just with opening up